Hey, Scott, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for having me, Brian. A little background. I don't know anyone in sales. Maybe you do, but whoever woke up one morning and said, "I just got to go out and be a salesperson.
Yeah, that
I'm
doesn't
going to
happen
give
as
up every
kids,
other."
does it?
No, no, no. When I was a kid, I will tell this story. I think I can handle the blowback a little bit. But my mother says that when I was a child, I wanted to be a singing astronaut. I obviously didn't hit that mark. But there's a great book called The Accidental Salesperson, and I think that's kind of who I am.
Yeah.
Went to college. I was going to be a filmmaker, so hey, I'm going to be the next Steven Spielberg. Now imagine right then and there you're in sales anyway, because if you're going to sell a movie or a script, you've got to sell it. Got a degree in filmmaking, went on to manage a band. Try selling something as ambiguous as music, right? It's a very defined audience. Went from there to getting into local television media. Did that for a number of years. Ran around with a camera on my shoulder, all the big stories. Asked a lot of questions, and then landed myself in media sales. And the rest is kind of history in a way from there. But I never thought I'd be in sales, except if you ask all the people around me in my life, like, "Oh, we knew you'd be there."
Really?
And it's just been a fabulous adventure, going from not thinking I'd ever be something to being something that I've been in sales a fair amount of time now. I've evolved my career, got out of media, pivoted, another mountain to climb. Been in technology for about the past 6, almost 7 years, and finally landed in a place now where it brings together all those different pieces as I'm in ed tech, selling a platform that has to do with mentoring and bringing students and alumni together. And that's really a passion of mine. So not every day that happens.
Well, I mean, that is kind of a little different twist. I saw a pattern, where you went to a great school, and the curiosity of a journalist fits very well to sales. Probably storytelling and the enjoyment of being around people.
Yeah, you have to stop, I think, because what is it? Ferris Bueller had that line in the movie, "Life's too fast." The life's too fast, right? He's a philosopher. Life's too fast. You got to sit back and take a look, and especially in today's world where we're bombarded literally around the clock. I mean, we were setting up here and I couldn't stop the messages. You'd think you'd turn them all off and they're still coming at you. So, take a look back when all those other people took a look around me and said, "We know where you're going to go." You have to stop yourself sometime and say, "Hey, how do I put the pieces of this puzzle together? And wait a minute, they fit in a certain way." And I agree with you. I mean, I think some of the greatest salespeople I've met are waiters and waitresses who understand that I have to upsell. I mean, there's a reason they ask you if you want dessert. Would you like another cup of coffee? There's, people in media. I have told them for years, when this is over, when this period of your life is over, you know how to ask questions. And if you can easily do that, you can succeed in sales beyond your wildest dreams.
How about as far as like the drive? I mean, clearly the skills are there, but there's that kind of have to win, hate to lose.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because I was never one of those kids who was involved in sports. I wasn't something I had a lot of access to. I was in band and art and theater when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And when I did get into sales, it always interested me how everyone wants to make sports analogies all the time. I mean, you've probably heard the stories about these sales floors where, hey, we're going to do a sales blitz and we're going to blast, collegiate music for an hour. And I'm thinking, I can't even relate to that. Like, just leave me alone and quiet in my own thought. Let me make some calls and I'd be successful. Right. But what I realized at the end of the day is I'm not in competition with anybody other than myself. I just want to do better tomorrow than I did today. And it doesn't have to be anything huge. Like, everybody wants to climb a mountain, I think. Well, if I can just, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, the music and the drama have the same thing as the sports in a way, because you have a coach, you have an instructor, and you get feedback, and you learn that how to get better.
Right.
It's not knowledge. It's how well you did it,
Right.
which maps to the filming as well. Anyone can capture it, but how well do you do it?
Absolutely. It's not just because everyone has a video camera these days, right? Doesn't mean they're a filmmaker.
Yeah, it doesn't make you Spielberg, right?
Doesn't make you Spielberg. Absolutely. It's interesting that when you look at the analogy, I don't know if you've been. I look for things in media and conversations that can give me a little gem of some sales knowledge. And what you're talking about, if you've watched Ted Lasso, the show on Apple TV Plus.
Apple TV.
I don't know about you, but I got halfway through the series and I'm like, this is a program about selling and sales leadership. Plain and simple. And yeah, it's comedy and it's soccer. But there were so many things that happened in there that I'm like, these are all great sales lessons. And I think some of the best salespeople find those lessons as they're going along. You can go through life with blinders on, or you can go ahead and take a look at life as an open canvas and find where those little tiny gems lie. But you've got to be open. You've got to have your ears open. You have to have your eyes open, which is the next greatest quality, I think, in a salesperson. Yeah. Ask great questions, but then just let them talk.
Yeah, because I think too many people find a set of platitudes and it gets them through the day.
Yeah.
As opposed to finding great distinctions and trying to get a little bit better every day. Well, how long did it take before you got comfortable selling?
In sales? It's interesting. So when I got into selling, one of my motivators, and again, I compete with myself. I was a TV news photog, and I realized I wanted to get out of that. I mean, it's a brutal, no pun intended, it's a brutal business. I mean, physically, back then we had 35-pound cameras.
In the morning, huge cameras.
You're being shot at. You're being chased. You're being pushed around. I mean, it's a rugged career. It in and of itself is a sport. But the thing that drove me the most was the local sales manager of a TV station the general sales manager telling the local sales manager that I had met, he's just a TV photog. He'll never succeed in sales, so we're not going to look at him. And I'm like, oh, now you're in trouble.
Oh boy, told you what you couldn't do.
Oh yeah, if there's one thing that people should never do with me is tell me what I can't do, because then I'm going to go do it 10 times better than they're scratching their head going, how did he do it? So I just applied to all the other TV stations, started using some really great networking. In my very first conversation, I picked up a phone. We have an emergency.
Sorry about that.
No, not a problem. Picked up the phone, called a TV station in town, and asked for the local, who was the local sales manager. Next thing you know, that person picks up the phone, and it is the local sales manager. I'm like, when does that happen? And then we started talking like, you don't live in Texas, do you? You're not from Texas. Oh no, I moved from Syracuse. I'm like, really? What station were you? Oh, we started putting the pieces together, and the next thing you know, I ended up pivoting my career. They took a very calculated risk, knowing that someone who could think about images, tell stories, could help customers make commercials. And they got the payoff. So I went into doing that, but then I got another book, Robert Juhl's Customer-Centered Selling. Okay. And in my opinion, he's kind of like the Neil Young of selling, right? Neil Young was the grandfather of grunge. I mean, that was the IBM, that's what pivoted IBM to greatness, was saying we're not selling photocopiers and printing machines anymore. And I just took those principles and applied them to media, and it was literally like a rocket, and it just took off. Everything clicked in. And then my first interaction with someone who would become a great mentor, Jason Jennings, he had this set of sales tapes. Back when we had, you go in the conference room, you put in a VHS. So he had great success in the radio business. He was the youngest radio owner in the country at one time, and he made this series of tapes. And the very first one is the one I remember most. Very short, maybe 5 minutes. The rest were like half an hour, 45 minutes. The title was "Find a Parade and Lead It." And that was the solidification of everything I needed to know. How to stand out in a crowd.
Okay.
And the idea was only your parents, if you're in the marching band, only your parents are going to know if you're third trombone, but everyone remembers the drum major at the front of the line. And that was it for me. How can I just continue to be the drum major in our career?
And what did that mean to you? Lead instead of follow, or
lead instead of follow, but be different.
Yeah.
Like, I don't do vanilla well. Anyone will tell you I'm consistently inconsistent. One day I will go in this direction, another day I'll go in this direction. My patterns may be the same, but how can I find a way to do something different and succeed at something today? Because tomorrow I've got to succeed at something. And it's kind of been my mantra through life is, if you do the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results, what are you going to get?
Yeah.
So if today I fail at something, tomorrow I have to make it better. And if today I succeed at something, how can I help use that to succeed at something else the next day to better? And those are the things that drive me, so that when I get up in the morning and look in the mirror, I say, what are you going to do today that's going to make a difference? Maybe it's leading something, maybe it's changing something. And at the end of the day going, did I do it? And that's all the competition I need.
And what were you selling? Were you selling advertising?
Right. At the time I was selling broadcast and digital advertising.
Yeah. Not easy.
So no. And it's different than enterprise selling, because you go in by yourself, you're meeting a business owner, and you have to listen to what have they been doing, and then think about the change that's going to connect with people. So that the idea that I could sit there and go, how about we write a commercial together? And they'd be like, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, right now. Let's talk about, 3 or 4 things that differentiate you from all your competitors. And I would do this thing back when, we wore watches that had, mechanical hands. I'd say, give me a minute. I put my watch on the table and go, okay, I'm starting. Okay, write it down. I'm like, hey, this is a rough draft, but what if we said this? And when you saw their eyes light up and they had the buy-in because they participated in the process, that was the magic. Like, that's when you knew you had that feeling, oh, I'm going to walk away with this and we're going to have a win-win. And it was so energizing for me, because at that point I could take this new passion that I had, which was professional problem solving. Some people call it sales. And I could take the creative background that I had from film school and being a kind of a hack musician. Like, I'm good enough, but I'm not, never going to be a
make a living.
I'm not. It's not going to put food on the table. But I could take those and bring them together and create something really special. And that satisfied me for a lot of years. I went into sales leadership in that industry. Because I got to a point where I wanted to help other people try to find their spark, so that they could go in and be different. I would send out another mentor of mine, Sandra Coyle. She printed out these huge business card looking postcards. She goes, hey, send these to your clients. Well, it got to a point where my competition would walk into my prospects or clients, and on bulletin boards next to their desk would be these huge business cards. How intimidating is that?
Yeah.
But I was able to lead the way in really using that resource and tool to make people think differently, think a little bit bigger, do something
instead of
different.
just talking about your listenership or your demographics or your domination in the marketplace. You're talking about helping them get more business.
Yeah. I talk a lot about mentors, because the truth is I would not be here if it wasn't for great mentors. I've had some fantastic human beings in my life who've provided me with some of the greatest nuggets possible. So that's going to come up probably a lot in our conversation, but I think it's important, because you look at, in today's world, a mentor is not someone you follow on TikTok.
That's not a mentor. No.
That's not a mentor. Not a mentor, not in my opinion, at least. And it's hard because we live in a society of this immediate gratification. Being a mentee is hard.
It is.
You have to have you have to go out and find someone that's going to help fit into changing your perspective in your world, so that you can create change with yourself. And then once you become a good mentee, evolving to become a mentor. So, I had another mentor who was in marketing and advertising. He would teach people to go into an advertiser and don't look at the main product they sell. Look at the lost leader over there. Find a way to take that lost leader and turn that into the sales gold for that customer. Whereas everyone else in town would go, hey, you want to sell another bed? How about those hypoallergenic pillows? Why don't you give one of those away as a lost leader to getting someone to buy the bed? So you gotta wide eyes, not have blinders on, and look around. And that goes to whether you're doing media sales or in technology. I mean, it really doesn't matter for any product. You have to look big, have a bigger scope than your competition. That is one way that I think you can win, is seeing more than your competition does.
And what was that switch like into technology sales? Because that's a different world completely.
Absolutely. The interesting thing that I found was everyone in technology sales was kind of like that sales manager who said, I could never be anything other than a TV news photographer. Yeah. So you know what that did to me? Yeah. That just energized me more. And I was hell bent on getting in. I'd seen the evolution of the media business, and they're doing more with less these days. So there are a lot of people displaced. So instead of being behind the curve, I'm like, I'm going to get out while I can. Yep. I applied probably to 120 some odd companies. Started to use my network of influence. I'm a big believer that the people that you either went to college with or went to the same alma mater, you have a kinship, maybe they can help you. I'd go out to those people at businesses. Hey, can you help me get into this role? Please send me the referral link. Maybe you'll get some money, right? And finally, when I landed in my first technology company, it was because I connected with a number of alumni who walked me through the process and helped me. And at the end of the day, getting into that company was the most rewarding thing, because everyone else had said, well, you've never sold technology. And my feeling was, if you believe that it's your product that will sell your company, fire all your salespeople and just put the products on the shelf and let people run away with them. Yeah. Let them check out at the door. So the hard part was the pivot. Once I got in there, that was a whole new world. I was able to take all that other experience and say, what if we did things a little differently? And then, oh my God, the magic started. Yeah. Literally, I found some new mentors. I had to take a step back. I started going to inside sales. I began to say, why are we calling into these people when I think these people will lose their job if they don't have our technology? They may not say yes to they may not have the buying power, but they're the ones who have the need. We started calling on other people. Doors started opening. Conversations started happening. So it wasn't the pivot into technology and understanding that selling wasn't difficult. It was, how can I apply what I know in the past, yeah, and then get in there. And once I was in, that's when it started to take off.
And how long did that take?
Probably about a good 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got close with a few companies, but the one that I landed at really put me in a great position, because the product I was selling actually mattered so much to CMOs that I was able to open my network up of, let's talk to this CMO, because if this doesn't work on Black Friday, come Monday, they have to fix it, and it's going to cost a lot of money. So it really, I got in the right place.
Yeah. And like the creativity, is that what excited you? Or
the creativity, I think we all need to be creative in sales.
Well, I think we all should be.
Right. I mean, well, we all should be. We all should find something to energize, to be able to do something different. But for me being creative is, seeing how, and you've done videos on the emails. Oh, how can I write a different email? And sometimes I had to get to a point where I'm just going to see what kind of subject line will get some attention. I've tried, is your hair on fire? If you have to solve a problem and your hair's on fire and you do it now, let's talk. Yeah. Believe it or not, sometimes it got me it got a yes, I need to solve for this now. Sometimes it got, hey, take me off your list, but it got a response. I think any response is better than a, sitting at the bottom of the pile. So being creative, I've been able to help and mentor other salespeople in my roles in technology, get to people to think a little differently.
I think
spur a lot of brainstorming.
Yeah. I think too many people are just following, someone else. And it turns into a cheap copy of somebody else.
Well, everyone's got a system. Everyone's got a plan. And a lot of people are good at following.
Yeah. It's easy.
It's never been my strong point. It's never been my strong point.
It takes the onus off of you. And if it doesn't work, you blame the leader. Right.
Well, and I take accountability myself. I come up with ideas every single day. Some of them are great. Some of them are just crazy. But I'm willing to take the responsibility if it doesn't work. And again, if we do what we've always done, we're going to get what we've always got. And who wants that? I think a lot of people are afraid sometimes to put themselves out there. I'd rather fail repetitively and win a few times than be arrogant enough to think I can succeed constantly.
And the call reluctance, none of that?
No, I've never had call reluctance. I've never had email reluctance. I'm not afraid to put myself out there, because what's the worst that can happen? They say no. Somebody doesn't listen to me. I signed up for this. Yeah. We signed up for clinically, and salespeople are clinically insane. We signed up for a life of people telling us no, go away. Yeah. Yet every human being, their nature is to want to be embraced.
It is. Yeah. It's a lot of counterintuitiveness.
Very counterintuitive, which is great, in my opinion, because I don't, if you said to me, hey, find, you're outside the box, find where'd your box go? I couldn't find my box in a room. I don't know, but I don't know if I'm unique in this, but I don't know fear. And I say that honestly. I didn't, when I was younger, and when we're really young, and I think this is why young salespeople, when they start up early in their career, you don't know fear yet, really. It becomes this thing that we accumulate over time. But I was going back about 10, 12 years ago, I was in a really horrible car wreck. To the point where maybe I shouldn't be here today. And from then on, I'm like, I just don't know fear, because what could be worse? What could be worse than what I just experienced? Someone saying no. And I'm willing to try anything once. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, we just try and manipulate a little bit to make it work. I also think that's why I've never really been one. I mean, I know of my wins and successes, but what I really remember are the losses. Yeah. I can tell you about 1 million losses, ton of failures, and all of them have really good learning stories. But the successes, either I didn't learn anything to get to that success because I already had it in me, or I just kept moving forward. Because you can't just sit on your laurels of yesterday.
Right. You can't let it drag you down, but you better learn from it if it was within your control. Because even if you paid the tuition, get the lesson, right?
Right. Well, even if it's not in your control, because there are a lot of things we can't control.
A lot.
There's a great lesson I got from a sales leader once is, you can only control the things that you have control over, right? But regardless, I think that if you go back and analyze when it didn't work, and I'm not sure how many salespeople really stop to take this moment. I've been in a lot of organizations. They just, they go from one to failure to the next, and they never do the analysis.
Well, that's it. Is it the wrong person? Is it the wrong company? Is it the wrong time? Did you do it in the wrong way? Was it too fast, too slow?
I had a sale a couple of years ago. I think it's about a year or 2 years ago now. You think you got it in the bag. You think you got the right relationships. They've already bought a ton of stuff from your company, so why wouldn't they buy more? You go through the process. You're feeling pretty good. You're hearing all the right things, and eventually, we got a really hard no, and they went with a competitor. Come to find out in the end, we had overestimated a relationship.
Yeah.
Well, we couldn't control the value of that relationship with that decision maker, but we could have done a better job at delving into that. And that was the one small yet large thing that we just felt, they're in book club together, but it's book club. Little did we know. So without doing the analysis, to go back and figure out from now on, when I look at that playing field, I need more knowledge in those relationships. Where do they really stand? Not what I'm thinking or my team believes. We've got to get some more knowledge behind that. We have to go a little deeper. So you learn a lesson, but if you don't stop and look backward, how are you going to succeed moving forward?
Yeah. Because sales is a lot like playing any video game or chess, where once you've made the move is made.
That's out of the bag. Yeah, the barn doors are wide open.
Right. The thinking goes before the move, not just afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's really a preparation profession.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If you go in to anything, there's what is it? The 1,000 hour, is it the 1,000 hour theory? 10,000 hour theory. You have to make an investment in yourself and the behaviors and actions for the way you get ready to do something or anything. If you have a chance of success, the only thing I would ever beat myself up over is, did I do a good enough job there? Because I'm pretty confident once I get there, I can dance, I can move, I can put on the show, but did I do what I needed to do to earn the right at that table? To me, that's the big part.
And what do you see as far as the difference between that top best salespeople, the top 1%, and kind of just solid players?
Is there one thing? Maybe you've seen this too. What I think is the trait of the people who in that don't focus on their success are the people who focus on the outcomes more.
Yeah.
Here's a quick story. I'm sitting in my manager's office, and the general sales manager comes in, and they had just laid out the new comp plan to everyone. You know where this is going. And the first thing they ask, he goes, "Hey, what do you think about that comp plan? That's a great comp plan, isn't it?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a comp plan." "Oh no, you're all this opportunity." It's just it's another comp plan. I can't count on my fingers and toes how many I've had. I go, "I'm really not focused on the comp plan." He's like, "What do you mean?" Now, of course, he's upset that I have not given him all these platitudes that he wants, all the excitement. I go, "You have me here to focus on every single day moving the ball down the field. The only thing that I rely on is if you live up to your commitment to give me what you just said you would. But if I focus on that," and you've seen this, people spend their money before they ever make it, and then they never make it. Love the eye roll. Then why should I focus on the comp plan? And I think that's one of the things where people get big-eyed. They focus on that bigger, I'm going to buy the boat, I'm going to buy the house, my W-2 is going to look great. Ugh. You got to focus on the little things that move you forward every single day, because the comp plan is going to be over there when you arrive. People focus on the smallest percentage of the selling process too much. The 1% at the end. That 1% at the end is you getting paid. When you lose sight of that 99%, there's a lot of distractions. That's where you don't reach that 1%. So I think that's an issue with kind of the middle to lower tier people who are struggling for success, because maybe they have someone in their organization who runs around showing them their W-2s. Right?
Yeah.
Well, it's like, let's be honest. The people who make the huge W-2s are kind of like the people who win American Idol. 1 million people try out, but only 1 or 2 people get to they win, right? So I think focusing on the things that you can have an effect on a daily basis. Forget about the comp plan. It will be there. They may change it a million ways. You may not even understand how it works. You just know you have to do X, Y, and Z.
You have to close deals. Yeah.
Right. You got to close deals. Now we've gotten to the point where it used to be just closing a deal. Now it's you got to close a deal in 17 different categories.
Right.
And one of them has to be on a day that doesn't end in a Y. So focus on the things you can control: your actions, behaviors, your attitude. That's a hard one, especially in the last year or so. And I'll be honest, I've had bad days. I'm sure you have too. There've been days where, I mentioned a mentor earlier on, Jason Jennings. Not due to COVID, but during COVID, I lost him. He passed away suddenly. Yeah. And he meant a lot to me. And that affected my attitude for probably a good 3 weeks, because I would think about the lessons I'd learned from him. And I put those lessons to use almost every day. So I kept having that callback. We can control our attitudes. We can control our behaviors. We control the focus and time we put into work. And if you're one of those people who can get your job done in 3 hours a day and you're a $100 an hour employee, more power to you. But just keep the focus amongst the distractions we have in the world these days. I think that's the one thing that people can do. You're going to see incremental change.
Oh, that's good.
Because those are the things that you can control and change. I don't know about you. I got a question for you. COVID moved us all to the home. Well, if you weren't already selling from home, do you think that being at home has been better for salespeople to focus or worse?
I think it's an individual thing. There was no change for me.
Right.
So it's hard for me to answer that. I think most people struggled with it at first. Did it affect you as far as because if you're a face-to-face person, then you're a fish out of water.
Yes. So look, I mean, we're talking, miles away from each other, but I'd rather be sitting down with a cup of coffee in a room with you.
You don't get, because this is appointment conversation.
Yeah.
Coffee, dinner, that's gone. The happy hours, the breakfasts.
Well, and I think when you put someone in a specific place at a certain time, not make it to a Zoom meeting,
right?
You get a better read, and they're in a better place to give you the truth.
They open up.
Because here, Brian, there's the UPS guy at the door. I gotta go for a minute. I'll be right back. Well, you can walk away from a camera for a moment because you need a second to breathe. It's hard to walk out of a conference room 15 times in a call just because you have to go to the men's room.
Right. So and when you meet somebody for happy hour, it's not for 30 minutes. It's, it's not for 4 hours, but it's not a fixed appointment.
Yeah. Yeah. I love going to happy hours. I used to, when I first got in the business, finding that parade and leading it. I was in San Antonio, and I caught one of the local chamber of commerce. I'm like, well, I would imagine a lot of those small businesses show up there. It's not easy running a small business. Maybe they just want a cocktail at the end of the day, And in all my years selling in San Antonio, other than one person who became a great friend of mine, I never saw another media rep show up at a happy hour for the Chamber of Commerce. But what did that lead to? They found out that I could teach people about marketing. So I said, well, would you like someone to talk about being different? I mean, I don't need to sell my product. Yeah. And I've never sold a product, in my opinion. I sell the solution that you need to solve your problems, right? Like the idea of salesperson, account exec, these titles. I'd rather just be chief problem solver.
That's a great mentality.
And I went ahead, I went and started doing these seminars on being different. Lo and behold, people would come up to me and like, hey, can we meet this week? I want to learn more about being different. Tell me how we can get the message out there. So I wasn't selling. I'm on this podcast with you because I love selling. But I hate the idea of selling. Why is selling the focus of something when it's solving those problems and just having communication relationships, trust, those things. Get rid of that idea of selling. Ugh.
I think that's the best point.
Yeah.
Hey, I really appreciate your time today, Scott. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. I keep pretty active there. I'm on Twitter, and also scottsaldinger.com. So you can reach me just about any of those places. Even Google me and you'll find a few pages on me. So I can't hide. You can find me.